All right, fam. Today we have a very special guest, a brother of mine, somebody that I've met recently, but even in just these recent times of knowing each other, definitely have journeyed through some different seasons together. John Cardis, welcome, bro. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, grateful to be here, bro. Thanks for having me on.
Yes,
I
sir.
know this has been
Yes.
a little while in the making, so.
Yeah, we've been talking about this, but it's all good. God's timing, right?
Oh man.
Bro, I want to well, I'll just say a little bit about you. I mean, you're a killer when it comes to sales. You are a Christ-centered man who was the host of the Jesus in Business podcast and done amazing things with that podcast. And I mean, you've been a public speaker really in different environments like Faith Hustle. Shout out to Faith Hustle and other, I think the Christian Entrepreneur Club, just different groups that I've seen that you've taught, you've poured into people. Bro, you've been in the kind of business entrepreneurial sales space for over a decade, is that right?
Sales over a decade, specifically
Hmm.
online, high ticket. I would say, yeah,
Okay.
6 years.
Wow. Yeah. Does it feel like a long time or does it feel like it's just flown?
Bro, I mean, I thought about it the other day, actually, like just how much the industry has changed.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, dang, I'm like the older guy in the space.
You're a vet, bro. You're one of the vets.
Weird.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. It's humbling, huh?
Yeah, and then there's a lot of younger guys that bring new flavor into the space and new ideas and new creativity. And it's like, wow, like I can learn a lot from them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's dope. Dude, talk to me a little bit about maybe just a brief synopsis of like your sales journey, how you got into Jesus in business or just like how Jesus came into the picture and all of that. And then we'll kind of go from there if you want to
Yeah,
share some background.
totally, 100%. Well, I
Yeah.
think I think it's important to rewind a little bit
Okay.
before sales. It matters where sales came from.
Mm-hmm.
Sales came from wanting to make as much money as possible because my parents
Mm-hmm.
were fighting over money and the cops were there every single weekend and
Man.
somebody was in handcuffs and sometimes it was
Mm,
me because of how angry I was. But
mm,
they were always fighting over finances. They were always fighting over money. And
mm,
it was me and my younger sister and
mm-hmm.
my mom and dad, right? And so very quickly, I kind of took on the role after they divorced and we moved out,
Mm,
losing everything, that I'm going to provide financially for my mom and my sister. And at that time,
mm.
at 12 years old, it was like mowing lawns or selling t-shirts.
Yeah.
And whatever money I
Wow.
made, it was like I'm either giving it to my mom to help with costs because I see the stress that she's under. I see that
Yeah.
like dinner is always the same every night. It was always like chicken, which is fine,
Mm,
right? But we didn't live in the nicest places. And I always saw
mm-hmm.
that she was working so hard. And then she did
Mm-hmm.
whatever she could to keep us in the town that we were in, which was a nicer town, but she didn't want to move us because she was like,
Mm,
I want you to grow up playing football with your friends and I want you to have this
mm-hmm.
experience. And same with my sister.
Yeah.
And so those experiences, it's interesting the way we look at trauma and
Mm,
a walk in life without the Lord and not
mm,
having truth ingrained in you from a young age. I grew up Catholic, but
mm-hmm.
didn't really like, I was an athlete. I went to religion
Mm-hmm.
class. We all played sports. We read for a few minutes and then we went to play sport. You know,
Yeah.
so I didn't really have a base and a core of what truth really was. And so
Mm,
it led me down this path of a young age, just being like, okay, money's the problem.
mm,
I'm going to go fix it. And
mm.
so sales evolved out of that. It was trying
Okay.
a bunch of businesses. Like I failed
Mm,
so many different businesses, drop shipping, e-commerce, selling locally,
mm,
t-shirt businesses, etc. And
mm-hmm.
I made a little money sometimes, but ultimately failed because I was playing the short game, playing the money game.
Mm,
And what I kind of found a career in sales because I kind of wanted it more than anybody else because
mm.
I had a bigger purpose at the time than everybody else. And
Yeah.
so I ended up getting a cold calling job in a call center
Okay. Yeah.
for an alarm and oil company. And so I did this
Yeah.
while I was in college. And so I'd go to
Wow.
class all day and then, even in high school, and then I
Mm,
would do 4 or 5 hours of cold calling while I was doing my homework at the same exact time.
wow. Wow.
And so that was some of the baseline within sales, but I was like, I can make per hour money and I can make commission. Like that's way better than the other jobs that I had.
Yeah.
And then I guess I did well. And so they were like, hey, we want you to do like door to door I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh,
wow.
cool, let's do door to door." And I remember being so afraid of, like,
Mm,
going up and knocking on somebody's door at a young age
mhm,
and being like, "Hey, do you have an alarm? Do you wanna buy an alarm?" All that sort of stuff.
mhm, mhm,
But I think those experiences really gritted my teeth on what kind of, and shaped just my sales journey.
hmm,
Then I got into insurance and then
mhm,
finally got to the high ticket space after moving to Florida. And that was
mhm,
birth out of a mentor coming into my life and being like, "You've made money, but like you don't have what you want."
hmm,
I told him, I was like, "I want to make money online and like travel the world." And he's
mm,
like, "Well, you're not making money online. So go find someone that is and go work for them
mm,
for free." And so I did that, which was pretty humbling. Ended up becoming uh basically like an assistant
mhm,
while I was in college, like an intern, actually. They called me intern Corey.
mhm,
And little did I know, like, that experience, that knowledge that I gained there, just seeing money move, and then the
mm,
relationships that I built in the office, and this is in Florida at the time, then
mhm.
led to my first high ticket sales role, where
Okay.
in that company, I guess I performed well while I was in college, and they took
What year was that
this
when you
was
first got
this
into
was 2019.
2019? Okay.
Yeah, so, like, July 2019, I became a high ticket closer for a real estate education offer that was
Mm,
newer. I was probably number 5, right,
mm,
on the sales team.
mhm,
And then over the course of a year, then they launched another brand. Now everybody knows Pace Morby, or most
okay.
people know Pace Morby. But I ended up, they were like, "Hey, we want you to manage this and build this." This is right around COVID, launched April
Mm,
of 2020. And
mhm.
then before you knew it, like we did $1 million in cash the first month, and I built out the sales process, hired the sales,
Wow.
etc. And I didn't know what I was
Mhm,
doing. Like it was all glory to God. Like it was
mm.
an incredible opportunity at that time in my life. Like 21 years old, managing a sales team, doing $1 million a month, like
Insane.
making buku bucks, like $50,000 a month in commission.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Wow.
Did that for 2 years and then launched my business in 2022. So,
Mm.
yeah.
What was your business? Or what made you even transition out of that? Because it sounds like you were doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure.
what yeah.
Yeah, we were crushing. Everything was
Mhm,
really awesome. I was working my tail off for sure and
mhm,
learning a ton throughout the process. A lot of highs and
mhm,
lows in building a sales team always. But,
mhm,
after around the year and a half mark in, corporate came in, they hired a COO, and
mm,
we had other brands that were in the company as well, like other
mhm.
coaching offers, other brand faces,
Okay.
and what they wanted to do was standardize all manager pay at that point. So then it was like, me too, salary, like bonus targets, etc. And
Mhm,
I looked at it and I'm like, "Okay, like I'm basically gonna make you want me to do less, like, so now my creativity is gone, and you're gonna
mm.
pay me about $10,000 less a month than I was getting paid prior."
Okay.
And so I didn't love the idea of that.
Yeah.
I was pretty, just I was, like, really upset, at that point. Like, I left and went to San Diego to go process that,
Mm,
and then I went back into sales for a second, then ultimately, December came around, I'm like, "Alright, what are my goals for 2022?"
mm.
And it didn't have anything to do with that company anymore.
Okay.
That's when I took the leap and said, "All right, like time to go build my own thing, figure out how to do that and start." So,
Yeah. Okay. So you build that, you go and you do your own thing. What is that like? Because that's very different from just being a closer to now being a founder and CEO, right? Now I mean, there's a lot more responsibilities that comes with that.
well, it was hard, right? And so think I think my mistake looking back on it was like I very much was, and this was from childhood, right? I
Mm,
very much was infatuated with the amount of money I could make on a monthly
mm,
basis. Right,
mhm,
so when you go from making 50, then to 30, then to, 20, and then
mhm.
you could leave and do your own company, you're down to 0,
Yeah.
right? And so I think it took me about a month and a half to sign my first client,
Mm,
and I remember that month and a half being brutal emotionally, like,
mm,
because I mean, yeah, I had a lot of money saved, don't get me wrong, but, like, I still
mhm.
had this internal drive where I wanted to make as much money as humanly possible.
Yeah.
It was never enough. Like, the scarcity
Mm,
mentality was all over me. And
mm,
so, like, emotionally, I was a mess that month of
mhm,
January into early February.
mm,
Signed my first client, probably looking back, shouldn't have taken that deal on, but I wanted to
mm.
make money, right?
What was your offer?
At that time, it was sales management.
Okay.
So I would come in as like a fractional manager. and
Mhm.
basically build out the team.
Got you.
And so it was a monthly retainer plus a percentage of growth. It was the first deal
Mhm.
that I made.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I looked at my experience and said, okay, like if from a sales side, if I can take,
Mhm.
this company from 0 to 20 million on a yearly basis, well, then I can probably work with companies that are not 20 million, and help them
Yeah.
get to the next level. And
Mhm.
so this first client that I had was at like 300,000 a month in cash. Had
Mhm.
a sales team existing, and like my thing was like, okay, let's scale it, right?
Mm.
Let's get the right foundation in place, et cetera, from everything that I learned and implemented over the course of the 2 years.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the journey there.
Got you. Got you. So where does Jesus come in?
Yeah. So
Where's Jesus at during
a hundred,
it's like the Old Testament narrative where it's
yes,
like you just hear what's happening on the ground, but like God is just not present, but
yeah,
then you see him show up through, yeah. Like let's talk to me about that.
100%. Well, okay. So like when I moved to Florida in 2018, I would say that
Mhm.
was my kind of conversion from being Catholic to non-denominational Christian.
Okay.
I didn't have a church with me, right? I wasn't plugged in to a church or anything like that. I was just listening to Joel Osteen's podcast every day.
There you go.
And so I think that for me, that connected well for me at the time because my God
Yeah.
is money and success. And so it made a lot of sense. Not
Mm.
a whole lot of repentance, right?
Mm.
And so like I had that going on, up until, I mean, for a decent amount of time. When I
Mhm.
moved, the company that I was working for, managing as well, before I started my company, I moved from
Mhm.
Florida to Arizona where the company was based, where I was managing.
Okay.
They were all like, they were all Christians. They went to Bethel, like
Okay.
they were legit. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can learn a lot here, just how to be a man, really, like how to walk with God.
Mm.
So that's when I decided to move out because I was going like once a month for a couple weeks at a time.
Mhm.
And so I move out. I'm getting discipled at that point. And
Mm.
still, you know, I chose a different directions, kind of my way, my will, the way I grew
Mm.
up, the way I knew it, as far as
Yeah.
relationships, as far as drugs, all sorts of different things, right?
Mm.
And making a lot of money, partying like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And young at best, right? So young and immature at best. And then I
Mm.
would say, there was this process in this time from 2022 building the first company revenue launch to 2023 where it absolutely took off. I finally got the products right. I hired a team. Everything was going really well. I moved to Austin. I was in a
Mhm.
relationship at that point for about a year and a half, and I would consider myself a lukewarm Christian. Party on
Mm.
Friday and Saturday, and then on Sunday go to church, and everything was kosher and everything was fine. Was still having sex before marriage. Was still, walking in sin.
Mhm.
At that point, when the business took off, I moved to Austin with one of my ex-girlfriends. Moved in
Mm.
together. Within 2 months, that was done. The
Mhm.
business is still taking off. I have clients that need me. I
Mm.
have a team that needs me, and I'm responsible for from a payroll perspective. Payroll goes really high.
Mhm.
And then my relationship fell apart. And so I'm
Mhm.
in this house by myself that we moved in together, right? I thought I
Mm.
had everything. I had everything I
Mm.
wanted, the dog, the car, the house at that point, the girl,
Mhm.
the business. And then
Yeah.
very slowly, I saw my personal life just completely like vanish, right? The
Mm.
dreams I had, right? And why I was doing what I was doing was to build that relationship and build a
Mm.
family, right?
Mhm.
And I got to this place of just like full surrender. I'm like, there has to be more than the way I'm living.
Mm.
Maybe I should heed the guy who was discipling me in Arizona, his
Mhm.
warnings a little bit better. And I didn't know at the time. So I spent a lot of time in isolation working through it. I did things like cutting caffeine and then, finally cut out weed and like stopped
Mhm.
alcohol for a long period of time.
Mm.
And I was just seeking God.
Wow.
I was seeking the word with every spare moment I had that I wasn't working. And there were days where I didn't speak to people,
Mm.
in person. I would speak to people like this,
Mhm.
all day long. And I was trying to keep it all together, basically.
Mm.
I get invited on a mission trip to Africa in 2024.
Mhm.
That radically set me on fire, changed my life.
Mm.
I had deliverance there.
Mhm.
And then I come back and I'm like just a different person. Like that
Yeah.
that first trip changed my life.
Mhm.
Come back and I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to do next?
Mm.
And he's like, I want you to give up the business.
Wow,
Like it has your heart.
man.
And so I got back, started taking the first initial client calls. felt
Mm.
something was totally off.
Mm.
I let it go. I was like, "Okay, clients can't work with you anymore. Sorry. We'll figure it out." Um,
Man.
and then, contractors gotta let you go. I'm
Mhm.
not running the business anymore. And
Mhm.
so, before I knew it, I was hiking in the woods every day praying
Mm.
and talking to God. And that's
Mhm.
the only thing I wanted to do was that and ministry and go out in the streets and go see people get saved.
Yeah.
And so a very radical shift, but
Mhm.
I'm very extreme. I think you know this about me.
I met you in the midst of that. In the midst of that season, that's where I met you, where
Yeah.
you were just all in.
All ministry, all ministry,
Yeah.
which is fine. I think in that time, not to get too far ahead, but like I think in that time that was what was needed, and that was a heart transplant. I had to serve
Mm.
people out with no agenda, and just
Mm.
love people with no agenda. And I think there's somewhere in the Gospels that says, really go after God in your youth
Mm.
as a young man. And
Mm.
I don't think that I had the opportunity to do that.
Mhm.
I think just because I wasn't aware, I wasn't raised in
Mhm.
it. And so, I went after it at a 26, age 26 versus, had a foundation of this stuff. But
Mhm.
again, that's what was needed for me was
Yeah.
that time and that space and just to love
Mhm.
people really well.
Mhm. And Jesus in Business, the podcast, was birthed in that season as well, right?
Yeah, it was birthed probably month 2
Okay.
of the sabbatical
Hmm.
because I literally
That's a good way to put it.
yeah.
Sabbatical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was sabbatical from work,
Mm.
industry I was doing. But yeah, it was month 2 and I was like, "Lord, like, if you don't want me to do business and you want me to be a janitor, not that being a janitor is bad. If you want me to do that, I'll do it for you." And that was like the point of like, really, I'm not in control anymore, you know?
Mhm.
Like I saw too much experienced too much in Africa. And the Lord over a couple of hikes in that week was like,
Mhm.
"No, I want you to do business. I just want you to do business in a kingdom way." And I was like,
Mm.
"Well, how do I do that?"
Mm.
And then the podcast became my way to give and serve from a ministry perspective and pour in financially from a
Yeah.
ministry perspective while
Mhm.
simultaneously learning kingdom business myself.
Okay.
So I got, the opportunity, just like this podcast, right? You get the opportunity to interview some incredible people.
Yeah.
And I remember the Lord telling me, like, I don't want you to say anything. I want you
Mm.
to just ask questions and understand. Like, don't,
Mm.
don't give your perspective.
Mhm.
And it was interesting for me at the time because, like, I was a business consultant. Like, I came into
Yeah.
companies knowing what to do, getting paid because I knew what to do
You're the guy giving the answers all the time.
and how to do it, right? And then the Lord's like, "No, I want you." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay." So I remember,
Yeah.
I remember the initial episodes being very
Mhm.
question, answer.
Mhm.
I remember at one point, Hunter Swain, who was like,
Mhm.
"Dude, you should give your opinion." I'm like,
Mm.
"Nah, like I feel like right now, like the Lord's called me not to."
Hmm.
And then I remember when it shifted in January of 2025 or December of
Mhm.
2025, it was like I went to the Upper Room Conference and Lord was like, "No, open your mouth now."
Wow.
And then before you knew it, like podcast opportunities and speaking engagements, and like I start talking on the podcast, giving my perspective, doing more solo
Mm.
podcasts, etc. And just kind of like the Lord was on it, which was really
Hmm. Yeah. I'm curious, bro, because you've mentioned multiple times that the Lord told me this,
yeah,
or like after that season, then the Lord said this.
yeah,
Like, talk to me about just like that relationship that you have with God, and even the ability to hear His voice clearly.
yeah,
Because sometimes, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I used to be a pastor, right? I
yeah,
used to
right,
be a ministry leader, and there are some seasons where I'm like, I know the Lord said this, and then something happens that's in line with what He said, right? Or there'll be seasons where it's just like a lot of my own feelings and my own thoughts, and I'm kind of just like swimming and just like trying to figure out like what is the Lord actually saying here. So I'm curious for you, what has been that, like, what does that look like in order to, like, in those moments where it was very clearly Him? How did you discern that?
yeah. I mean, I think the first thing that comes up for me is we all know this one, but Proverbs 3, 5, 6, right? Trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your
Mhm.
ways, acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight, right? So
Mhm.
I think it's like, okay, what is our understanding versus what His understanding and what His will is for our life, right?
Mhm.
Lives, and for that predicament. I think
Yeah.
the first question I ask myself is, am I walking in righteousness? If I'm not walking in righteousness and walking with Jesus in the righteousness that He's purchased, formally,
Mhm.
freely given me, well, then
Mhm.
I could be following an idol that is not the true gospel.
Okay.
And so am I walking in full righteousness? Okay. From that,
So if we can even just dig deeper
Mhm.
there, are you referring to, like, you're not consciously living in sin and you're just moving according to your conscience and what you
Correct.
believe is right and you
Mhm.
just have a clear conscience before God? Like,
Yeah.
is that what you're
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
And then what I do is I create space. Like
Mm.
I I'm constantly praying, right? And so like I have my
Mhm.
set up here, obviously, where I
Mhm.
to make it easy. But then I also have a cadence to where on a weekly basis I go out into the hills and I go hike with no phone and just pray.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I take note of the things that stand out to me, and they're always things that I want to maybe ask questions about or whatever. And
Mhm.
from that place, what I get back that is in alignment with His Word, it's important to have
Yeah.
His Word in that way, right?
Mhm.
That's my kind of my green.
Okay.
My green is like, okay, this is from the Lord.
Yeah.
So that's like some of the process there on how like I hear Him. And so like even this too, like there are different times. As an example, you can prep all you want, like for a podcast or for a speaking engagement or for a sales call or for a marketing thing, whatever it might be. And there's
Mhm.
different times when the Lord will speak to me something completely off of what was prepped. And so I'm not saying
Mm.
don't become ready, come prepped, but
Mm.
in tune with what it is that He wants to release in different
Mm.
areas, in different ways, in different conversations or in sales calls,
Mhm.
etc. And then before you
Mhm.
know it, like you're letting Him lead versus your plan.
Mm.
That's the way I look at it and way I've
Yeah.
learned it.
Man, I'm so curious about that because especially like in the sales space, there's always this, hey, this is the script, this is the framework, this
Yeah.
is the thing, and you need to follow this in order for you to get it right. And if you don't get the sale, you blame it on you not following this thing that you had to follow. So I'm curious because you just mentioned like following even God's leading in the spirit in
Yeah.
the midst of a sales call. Like, is that something that you've
Oh,
experienced? Like, is that something you're referring to?
yeah, for sure. And in the middle of presentations and yeah,
Mm.
like I'll just get like, okay, no, I need to cover this. And I pray into it, of course, and surrender it. So like if something pops up that's outside of what my plan was, well then I'm gonna go for it. I very much believe that if we teach obedience to the Holy Spirit, you don't necessarily need to follow a framework to a T.
Hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So, like, I've said this and I've alluded to this in the past, but, like, I look at a script, like, just like this Bible here, right? It's pages with 4 borders. Okay, so a
Mhm.
sales script has 4 borders and it's a box.
Mhm.
What I believe in is you let the dog run out in the backyard,
Mm.
and if they cross the fence,
Mm.
then you kind of make sure they come back in, right? But you
Mhm.
can let your prospect run around the backyard all you want.
Mhm.
The dog can go
Mm.
anywhere they want.
Mm.
So there is some level of structure. And even if we look at Jesus speaking to the disciples,
Yeah.
He asked over 300 questions in the Gospels. It's
Mm.
like, now, questions are foundational to understand where somebody's at because what is kingdom sales? It's leadership.
Mm.
You can't lead someone that you
Mhm.
don't understand where they're at.
Yeah.
So in that way, there is a level of understanding and leading and a framework. Now,
Yeah.
do I need to ask this question? Do I need to ask this question? And then do I need to do this? No.
Mm.
Like there's times where, I'm on a call and I'm just like, they don't need any of that. So I
Mm.
feel like they don't need any of that. I feel like
Yeah.
what they truly need is just me to get to the point
Mm.
and pitch quicker.
Yeah.
And so everything is in context too, right? Different
For
industries,
sure.
different ICPs, like I think when we overgeneralize things, I think that's an issue.
Mhm.
And so
Okay.
that's why I lean into like, no, like learn how to understand where someone's at and then how to properly lead them. Like if you
Mm.
loving someone is understanding where they're at and leading them well. And
Right.
that is sales.
That's deep. Yeah. That's not talked about with a lot of, these sales coaches and sales gurus. That's not really what you hear.
Well,
Yeah, spirit-led sales. Huh.
you have to understand too, is I was one of those self-proclaimed sales gurus. I
Mhm.
trained like Andy Elliott. Like I
Mm.
would jump on sales meetings and
Mhm.
get paid to consult sales teams,
Yeah.
just like yell at, not in a mean way, but like,
Mhm.
like really fire everybody up. Like that was always
Mhm.
my energy in those scenarios because sales is an emotional transfer and it's an emotional
Mhm.
game. And
Mm,
so it's how you show up that creates the sale conversion.
mm,
But I don't think that source is actually right always. As
mhm,
I've asked the Holy Spirit how and asked the Lord, how do I do sales now?
mm.
It's more from a heart posture perspective and less from like
Yeah.
a rah rah bro perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, one of the fruit of the spirit is gentleness,
Mhm.
right? And that's something that within I feel like the business space is not it's not glorified. It's
Yeah,
not a characteristic that you look for in a sales bro or
a hundred
you
percent.
know, I heard recently somebody was like, "Yeah, my team is filled with savages." Like
Yeah.
even just the language that's used is almost violent. No, it's almost like this just aggressive kind of primal animalistic nature is what somebody wants in a sales rep. And it's very different when we're talking about from a spirit-led or kingdom perspective.
So here's the thing, and I've studied this because I'm fascinated by it.
Mm,
What does the savageness culture produce in terms of client results? And I've thought
mm,
about that and I've evaluated that over the course of a decent amount of companies. And
mhm,
it produces fruit that doesn't last.
mm,
Why do I work with a company 3 years ago and today they don't exist?
mm,
Well, the savages closed quote unquote, we'll use that language, closed
yeah,
too many deals with the wrong heart posture
mm,
to focus on money more than serving our client, which the
mm,
fruit of that is misaligned expectations because you're overselling, which then
mm,
leads to clients not getting proper results, which leads to bad
mm,
reviews, which leads to lots of
mm,
confidence in the product from your closers, which leads to your
mm.
company shutting down and ads going up at the same time.
Sheesh.
'Cause now you don't have good results to stand on,
Yeah.
good testimonies to stand on. So that's the cycle I've seen within the coaching business, a coaching
Mm,
industry, I should say.
yeah. Mhm.
And I'm sure it exists in other industries too, but just that's my viewpoint, right?
Yeah.
And I think we have to get back to a heart-centered way. Like even when I
Mm,
take a sales call now for my recruitment company, I'm like,
mhm,
is my heart right for this person? Like, am I
hmm,
willing to say, no matter what the money is, am I willing to say, like, no, actually, you don't need us?
hmm.
And truly mean that, and not like as a sales tactic, like a takeaway. Like
Yeah.
truly mean like, "Hey, you know what? I actually don't think you're in the best spot right now because
Mm,
of this, this, and this." Like I think
man.
right now, you guys do really good on referrals. I think that
Mhm,
a salesperson wouldn't do you justice right now. The right
mm,
salesperson, right? And so I think that is what sets us apart. Like,
mm.
what is value?
Yeah.
What is value is when an outcome is produced, right? We can look at
Mhm,
value in a whole different ways. We can go in a bunch of different directions in that way.
mhm.
From a financial level, from a health level, from a wealth level, a relational level, whatever that might be, whatever the outcome
Yeah.
is. If I can't produce value for that person, I'm not gonna sell it to them.
Mm,
I'm just not. Like you're either
mhm,
my ideal client, you're gonna be a great client for me, in which
mhm.
you're not gonna cause me stress because you were sold the right way.
Yeah.
Now I can live with a peace that surpasses all understanding while having a servant heart
Mm,
for my clients, making money, okay, supporting my
yeah.
family and the things that I have in my life, right? While simultaneously doing right by the client and getting them phenomenal results. So if I don't think I can get phenomenal results for somebody, I tell them.
Man, I think this is such an important conversation because I know a number of people, I've been there, I'm sure you've been there, where back is against the wall, you gotta pay the bills, you gotta provide for your family, you gotta and y your mindset is, "I need to close a deal."
Sure.
And there's this tension because, especially for a lot of people in the coaching space, there's not a base salary to fall back on. It's all or nothing, essentially. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, either you're eating or you're not eating.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it gets tough for a lot of people. And unfortunately, this is why a lot of people just like, yo, I'm gonna just close anything I can get my hands on because of that real aspect on the closer side or the coach's side that's like, yo, I need this money.
Yeah. For sure.
And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. And I've heard, different people say, "Hey, like, don't leave your job until you match in your business or as a closer what you make in your as your salary in your 9 to 5, or
Mm.
things of that nature, so that it relieves some pressure."
Yeah.
But I'm curious what your perspective is on that.
Yeah. I think from the guy that's been in that place where I literally had five mouths depending on me, right?
Mhm.
From a employee perspective and their
Mhm.
families, then looking at my payroll and saying, okay, well, $35,000 a month of payroll, 30,000 a month in payroll. How are we going to make it next month? We need to close a deal. And then overselling and overpromising in order to make that happen back in
Mhm.
2023.
Yeah.
I think if we're ever at a point where we need a deal
Mhm.
as a business owner, I
Mhm.
think we should check our ego at the door, and I think we should get a job
Mm.
because it's just not setting the right expectations.
Mhm.
Like I'll give you an example. This is
Yeah.
personal, which is fine, but like even now, like I net through my business between 20 and 30 take home, right, a month.
Mhm.
So, okay, cool, great. Do I expect that this month? No,
Mm.
right? Do I am I attached to that number? Like, is that number my identity?
Mm.
No, right? So I wrote this the other day I posted this on Instagram because I think it really summed it up for me.
Mhm.
Pray for the outputs, commit to
Mhm.
the inputs, and surrender the outcome.
Yeah.
So I'm praying for certain things in my business to move and certain
Mhm.
outcomes, right?
Mhm.
Then committing to the inputs and then
Mhm.
having a piece of like, Lord, now you do what you have to do. I'm gonna commit to doing the things, but
Mhm.
you have the outcome. That's not the
Yeah.
outcome is not up to me.
Mhm.
And so I think if we're ever in a spot, to go back to your original question, where
Yeah.
we need the deal, we're not surrendering the outcome.
Mm.
And so that's where idols are.
Yeah.
Even if it is for good purposes, meaning like, I need this money in order to pay this bill. Okay,
Mhm.
I understand that totally.
Yeah.
That's financial pressure of the world, which is fine, right? Weight on your
Mhm.
shoulders, things to carry, no problem.
Mm.
But that is not your client's problem.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
the weight that you feel shouldn't be transferred over to them.
Wow. That's deep.
I don't think that serves them right. So
Mm.
I think we should only take those calls and continue to serve customers from a place of abundance, right?
Mm.
And from a place of, I don't need this deal. I
Mm.
don't need anything from you.
Yeah.
And from that place, the right people convert, which
Yeah.
creates the right expectations, which continues to build the business and makes you more money.
Yeah.
And so that's where I truly believe
Mhm.
that the Bible, the renewing of your mind in Christ
Mhm.
actually makes us wealthy
Wow.
because
Wow.
we don't need anything. What was the
Mhm.
most common phrase in the Bible? Do not be afraid.
Mhm.
There's another scripture, I forget what it is, but whoever has will have more, essentially.
Mhm.
So, okay, so if you have, there's an abundance even more than that. So
Yeah.
that shows, okay, we're not thinking in scarcity mentality, we're thinking in
Mhm.
abundance, right?
Mhm.
So true repentance and following the Lord and walking in righteousness
Mhm.
leads to the renewing of mind over time, which
Mm.
leads to wealth building.
Mhm.
We see that amongst most men in the Bible is wealth followed their obedience to Christ.
Yeah.
And so just to sum that up, I go back to if we ever need something, ever need a deal, we need to reorganize and rebuild the foundation. Like to me, that's a trigger.
Mm.
It's like, okay, that's a signal to me and a trigger that something needs to change
Yeah.
because I want it more than I want to serve my customer.
Yeah. Wow. You dropping gems, bro. Somebody had to hear that. I know I did, but I know somebody else listening to this had to hear that. And I feel like that's so common, bro. Even for Christian founders, Christian closers, this is such a common thing because a lot of people get into this because they need to make more money. They need their regular job doesn't make enough money for them. They're looking to, launch something that's purposeful, but at the same time, in order to get it off the ground, they need to make sales.
Sure.
So it's like, man, yeah, I don't think this is talked about enough. And yeah, thank you for that perspective because you've been on both sides. Like you've been on that hustle grind. Let me close any single thing that's
Yeah,
moving, right? And you're also now you've gone through a season of refining where now it's that renewal of the mind, and now it's like, hey, sales can be a beautiful thing if it's done with a servant heart.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, then I think too to go into like how does one transition then,
Mm,
right? I think from the vantage point that I have, and this is just what I say is coming from mentors or coming from just like prayerfully considering different things and working through
mm-hmm,
them with the Lord, right? So I think from my vantage point now, there are easier ways to make the most amount of money and transition into things if we
mm,
understand spiritually where people and companies are at.
Hmm.
What is that?
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, what exactly? What does that mean?
You
You are
gotta unpack that one, bro.
you
I
are
don't know what you're saying.
100%. Your best clients that pay the most amount of money are attainable and reachable if you structure your offers correctly. Okay, now what does that mean?
Mhm,
Take company A. Take company A and B. Company A is a coaching company, just as an example,
mhm,
doing $200,000 a month in sales. Okay,
mhm,
and with a 60% profit margin. Company B is a 10K a month coaching company,
mhm,
making about 80% margins because they have a leaner team.
mhm,
But they're at 10K a month.
mhm,
Okay. If you sell a $10,000 offer to both of
mhm,
them, who that helps their, let's just say, like, helps their sales team 3x,
mhm.
who would have an easier time with that investment?
The bigger company.
The bigger company. Okay.
Yeah.
So the bigger company not only would pay upfront in full because they see the return immediately because they have a bigger structure, they also have more
Mhm,
funds to do it with.
mhm,
So, okay,
mhm,
so then the question becomes is then how can you target the best companies? How can you help the best companies with the most amount of money? So
mm,
you serve, like, I was consulting a Christian business owner. Every once in a while I do this just like one-on-one, like once a week
mhm,
type of thing. It's kind of just fun for me. It's like an add-on.
mhm,
But I was consulting this business owner and he was helping churches with
mm,
video editing and content creation. And he came to
mm,
me and he was like, here, my packages are $250 a month, $750 a month, and $1,000 a month. I'm like, which do you get the most often? He's like, $250 a month. And I'm
mhm,
like, what do you do for them? He's like, I do all the editing. And I'm
mm.
like, okay, that's cheap. It's very
Yeah.
cheap. And I'm like, let's review some sales calls. Review the sales calls. I'm like, I understand it now. You're targeting the
Mm,
wrong ICP.
mm,
So what if, and he's like, I love to serve churches. I'm like, good. I'm glad you love to serve churches. Now
mhm,
let's create a model that actually allows you to serve the churches.
mm.
What if we went for Christian entrepreneurs that
Yeah.
the content you create for them, edit and post for them, right? What if that makes them revenue and creates more brand awareness, right? Because they have
Mhm,
a product or service that's attached to their business. And so now there's a
mhm,
direct ROI versus a church doesn't see an ROI. Let's
mm,
build the company to X amount. I think the number was 20,000 a month. Let's build the
mhm,
company to 20,000 a month. And then if you have a church that comes along that you want to do for $500 a month, you can do it because
mhm,
your family's taken care of. You just got married, right?
mm,
We're hiring virtual assistants, right, to help out with some of this stuff. And you
mhm.
still want to serve churches, right? So, like, to me, that's goodwill, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You can do that, but let's build the business. So the things that it's the same input. He was doing the same things,
Right,
but
right.
I took him from 250 struggling to sell to 2,500 a month because
Yeah.
of the return, and he was getting it.
Yeah.
He was getting it
Wow.
because of the return
Mhm,
that was being produced. So it's just
mm,
the clientele.
mhm,
And what's the difference between each clientele? To me, it's like, okay, where they're at spiritually, and like, not churches
mm,
in specific, but if you look at businesses, it's where they're at spiritually.
mm.
Like
Wow.
your 10K a month business owner is a very emotional sale. Why?
Yes.
Because it's fear based.
Yeah.
Okay. Your
Yeah.
200K a month business owner is not an emotional sale.
Mm,
It's all logistics. It's all leverage, all
mm.
return based.
Yeah. Wow.
If the numbers make sense, it's done.
Yeah.
They're easier conversations. So
Wow.
how is it easier to make more money and charge more with better clients than it is lower clients? Again, the
Mhm,
spiritual gap. What Myron
mhm,
Golden talks about, I love this. He talks about a hotel as an example.
mm,
Hardest working person in a hotel is the maid staff.
mhm,
Why do they make the least? Why does the CEO make more than the maid staff? The maid staff is working harder. Well, okay, spiritually, they're at a different
mm,
place. The CEO has vision and imagination and also has
mm,
communication. Okay. That is not something that the maid staff has mastered to the point the
mhm,
CEO has. So the CEO makes the bulk of the money.
mm. Yeah, dude. This is really important. Cause I know there are some people who have the worldview that, nah, they should all be paid the same. The people who are the maid staff are putting in more work and they're sweating more and this and that. But, like, you're right, like, it's a higher level of value that's being given because this CEO is, I mean, he's managing probably multiple hotels and,
Yeah.
keeping things running. And so, yeah, I mean, you're making me think because, yeah, and this is the same with, like, helping people who are starting and have a lot of limiting beliefs, have a lot of fears, like you said, versus somebody who is just like, yeah, this just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like I jump on a call with a company for recruitment, and within
Mhm.
15 minutes, they're
Mhm.
wiring $15,000.
Crazy.
Right? It's like, okay, yeah, I'll just pass this through accounting. It'll be done like by end.
Mhm.
Cool, no problem. You know?
Yeah.
And it's that level of trust that's built because they see the value and they see the direct return on investment.
They see the evidence.
Yeah. So again, I did the B2C stuff, and not to say the B2C stuff is bad.
Mhm.
It is highly emotional, and I think
Yeah.
when you get into B2B, you learn
Mm.
not like that as much.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
to me, you serve customers better actually
Yeah.
that way.
Serving more people because it trickles down at a larger rate.
100% that too.
Yeah. Bro, I know our time is limited. We're winding down on time. I'm curious. I wanted to ask you this because I know you went through kind of a deconstructing phase in terms of like maybe in the area of wealth, right? I
Yes.
know we had a conversation a while back and, we were just talking about charging and pricing. And I just remember encouraging you to charge more
Yeah.
because of the fact that, bro, I mean, you have so much experience, so much knowledge, right? So much value at a higher spiritual level than I think you were giving yourself credit for. And I'm curious, like, where are you at now? Like, what was that process like? Yeah, talk to me about
Yeah,
that.
100%. And at that time, that was so crucial for me, like what you had said.
Mm,
And it's interesting because I knew that. I knew that I can charge a lot because I did it already, right?
right.
Like I knew what my worth, my value was in business.
Mhm.
And there was something that was, and I don't, it was something internally that I think I was walking through for a period
Mhm.
of time of like this religious mentality
Mm,
towards not charging,
mm,
like charging for things. Like I wanted to freely receive and freely
mhm.
give as much as humanly possible. And I wanted to test that mentality in business
Mm,
as a data point, right?
mhm.
And and so, I mean, I did, right? I worked with companies that, I didn't charge anything up front and just like and I told them,
Mhm.
I was like, I would typically charge this much up front and I would get it all the time, but like I want to try this. And they're like,
Mm.
you're not smart, basically.
Sheesh.
That's not what they said. But it was passion problems for me and I wanted to test it. And so like that's what getting into
Yeah.
business again looked like for me initially.
Mhm.
And I think now I think a lot of things have shifted. One thing that stands out to me is a mentor of mine, Nick Barely. He was on Jesus in Business. I saw him in San Diego at that conference.
Mhm.
And I think he talked about in San Diego. It's funny, I was recently talking to somebody about this.
Mhm.
It takes no skill whatsoever to pray over somebody. It takes no skill to pray for healing.
Mm.
Granted, it's important and takes some level of communication,
Yeah.
but God is doing the work.
Yeah.
Jesus is doing the work.
Yeah.
And what he was saying is that I want to give other people that opportunity
Mhm.
to experience those miracles and those things and see salvations and see the Lord move.
Mhm.
And so instead of doing the work, low skill in that way, he wasn't downplaying praying, obviously, but
Mhm.
instead of doing that, I'm going to make the funds then to send missionaries out,
Mm.
right? Because my skill set is in like his skill set, he was like you saying, is in
Yeah.
business and building companies. And the better
Mhm.
I do that, the more I can give and send people to develop in that way, right? And go
Yeah.
do the Lord's work and go be the hands and feet of Jesus. And so
Mhm.
I think part of what has transitioned for me is like I realized I always knew that business was my thing. That's why the podcast was called Jesus in Business. I always
Mhm.
knew it was business. I just knew I was in a period of time of doing ministry and focusing on that.
Mhm.
Now I understand that at that point I buried my talents from a business
Mm.
perspective.
Mm.
And so the good and faithful servants, the two of them, multiplied
Yeah.
the 2 talents and the 5 talents in which they were given. Okay,
Mhm.
so now we say multiplication is a part of God's kingdom design. Okay,
Mm.
so then what talents and gifts has the Lord given me?
Mhm.
And I know at that time, for context, talents was money. It was actually money, but
Mhm.
it's interesting how it's figurative in today's modern day and age. But talent, gift slash money, okay, I'm called to multiply it.
Mhm.
And so those are big moments for me as I was praying over other kingdom business owners that rewired the way I thought about it. And I was like, I can
Mm.
do much more by being the one to make the funds from a
Yeah.
leverage standpoint than I can
Mhm.
being the one to pray, but I needed to go through the season of being the one to pray and being the one to give because I didn't grow up like that.
Hmm.
Like I said, do that youthfully, it's better, right? But because I
Mhm.
didn't grow up like that, I did it a little bit older, which is fine. I mean, everybody's on their own journey in that way.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, because the majority of people don't have that skill to create wealth, you know? And for someone like you who has that skill to say, I'm gonna lay this skill down because I want to honor the Lord is almost like, hey, that's the thing that you do use to honor the Lord. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's so interesting because you said it's this kind of religiosity, maybe even legalism
Mhm.
that really just the poverty gospel that tells us, hey, like you're not supposed to make money. Stay away from that. Anything that makes you money, stay away from that. And it's like I think Myron Golden said this as well. He's like, so are we just gonna sit around and let all the evil people get all the money and just build
100%.
everything, all their companies and all their movements and let them take over the world and we just
Yeah.
sit back and do nothing?
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, it's true.
100%.
It's true.
I think it's a heart posture thing, right? I made a lot of money with the
Yeah,
wrong heart posture, and
for
so
sure.
I needed a time to have for God to develop the right heart posture in me towards people,
Mhm.
towards service, and
Mhm.
then, like, now business is a breeze.
Yeah.
I don't fear, if I catch myself fearing something, I'm like, "Oh, okay, like, I know how to handle that," you know?
Mm.
And so it's a much different way.
Mhm.
To me, I've made a lot more money way easier than I
Mm.
have in the past, which is
Mm.
interesting.
At ease, at peace.
Yeah, and still having a life and for, like, mental capacity and emotional capacity and spiritual capacity for other things, for ministry,
Mhm.
for relationships, to run 40 miles a week, 20 miles a week like I do,
Crazy.
just different things.
Check out John's Instagram story every day. That's dope. Love it, bro. Any final thoughts, points that you want to share, just to somebody that may be listening, just to encourage them or to send them off with a final word? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, so I get the sense that there are people listening that are following the Lord, but are not seeing the breakthrough that
Mm.
they really want. They're surrendered, they have the right heart posture, they're giving, they're pouring into their community, their relationships, but they just feel weary with it not really working the way they know it can. And my encouragement would just be like, I've had those seasons. I've had a recent season of that where I
Mm.
was praying and not seeing the breakthrough that I really wanted. And I'm like, God, are you even here? Are you even with me? At different
Mm.
points, and kind of the questioning and the wrestling because of the way things look externally
Mhm.
sometimes.
Mhm.
And my encouragement would be is just be faithful in the season that you're in.
Mm.
And from the obedience and from the way you steward what is right in front of you right now, there
Yeah.
is that time of breakthrough. And when that time of
Mhm.
breakthrough comes, there'll be another season, right, where more character is being developed.
Mhm.
The lull seasons are character development seasons that produce the endurance to keep running the race, right?
Mm.
And to make you complete.
Yeah.
And so take what you have right now, understand that if you're in it, God has more purpose for it. And
Mhm.
it's going to continue to develop you into the call that He has for your life because you know the call and
Mhm.
it's just stair steps in order to get there. And sometimes we
Mhm.
try to speed up the stair steps or we want to speed up the stair steps. Like, oh, let me just get married or like, I just want to be in a relationship or I just want to make this much money or I just want to like not this or not that.
Mhm.
So my encouragement is just continue to stay faithful in the season that you're in.
Thank you for that, bro. John, thank you so much, bro, for being willing to come on here and just share your story and your wisdom. And it's just so cool to see when somebody has experienced so much and like you just speak with such ease where it's just like I just know it's coming from your essence. Like it's not coming from head knowledge, it's not coming from just theory, but it's like truly from your being, you're just sharing. Really appreciate that, bro.
Yeah, you got it, bro. Thanks for having me on.
So yeah, bro. So maybe we'll have you back in the future at
I'm
some
all
point. But bro, thanks so much, and everybody who's listening, thank y'all for sticking with us. Hope this was a blessing, and catch y'all next time.